Today, I'm going to be speaking with one of my favorite artists. She is just amazing. She's an amazing performer, and she's had a wonderful, wonderful career. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Freda Payne. Hey, Freda!
Hey, Viv, how are you doing?
I'm good. Don't you look good? How are you doing? Good?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. I had
Good.
a workout today with my trainer, believe it or not.
All
Uh,
right.
and that leaves you feeling a little exhausted afterwards, but then you feel great, like
Yes.
giving a little,
Y-
after you revive yourself.
And it has a payoff. It has a payoff down the line
It
because then your
it
body is
does.
all toned and everything. All right, Frida,
Yeah.
listen. A lot of people know many things about you, but start at the beginning. Like, when did you know you were a singer, or did your parents tell you this? How did it start?
Well, I was Vivian. I was a very shy child.
What?
I was very shy. I was a tomboy, but I was
Woo!
shy in terms of like presenting myself to people. My sister Sherry, who is my younger sister, she's 2 years my junior. Sherry was the gregarious one. She was the one that would, when my mother had friends and came over, she would come out in the living room and say, "Hi, I'm Sherry. I want to sing for you." And she would sing a song. Nobody asked her. She would just start
Yeah, she had
singing.
that chutzpah. She
She
just
had
did
the
it.
chutzpah,
Yeah.
and she had
Yeah.
and she was good at it
And
too.
she's a fine singer. Um,
An excellent singer. So she would do that, and I would like, "Where's Frida?" I would like be in the other room hiding, behind. And I wouldn't even sing for my mother unless I was standing behind the door. You
you were
know,
that shy?
I was that shy. But my
Wow.
grandmother, who died when I was 10 years old, and I loved dearly, she used to tell my mother, she says, my mother's name was Charcelie. Charcelie, don't worry about Frida. She's going to fool everybody. So
And
grandma's hands, hey, grandma must have known. She saw something in me. She saw something in me that my mother hadn't seen. And because my mother was worried about me, and being so shy and reclusive. And what happened was, see, Sherry and I both were taking piano lessons, and I started before Sherry. And we had been with this lady, Ruth Ann Johnson, for like 7 or 8 years. And I started when I guess I must have been about 5 or 6 years old when I
wow.
started. And my mother took me to the Detroit Conservatory of Musical Arts. And then after that, we started taking private lessons. A lady would come to the house, and she would give Sherry a lesson and me a lesson. And it went on like that. So anyway, one day, this was like when I was 12, she said, "Frida, because every year we had a recital, every single year. And I always had my piece to play. Sherry had her piece. And she never asked anybody. She never even asked Sherry to do a solo at that time. So she said, "You know what? I'm going to do something different this year. I'm going to have a ensemble of 6 people, and I want to try your voice out, Frida, to see if you're good enough to be in the ensemble." So she
Wow.
she played, and I sang a song that I knew a little bit. "Frida, you have a lovely voice. Why don't you ever sing for anybody?" I said, "I don't know. I don't want to." She said, "Well, I want you to do a solo. I want you to do a solo." And I did a solo. So my song was "Stars Are the Windows of Heaven." And I also sang, I did the solo and I sang in the ensemble as well. And afterwards, my mother's friends, because my mother invited all her friends to the
Of
recital,
course she did.
and my mother's friends would say, gathered around me after the recital and said, "Frida, we didn't know you had such a beautiful voice. Why don't you sing at our next tea?" Stuff like that. And I did that, and then I got the chutzpah, I got the nerve to enter talent contest. So I entered a talent contest, a local one, and I didn't win first. I won second. But the lady, the girl, she wasn't a lady then, she was a kid, a teenager, who won first was a girl who'd been on TV a lot in Detroit. Her name was Ursula Walker in Detroit. She's
Ursula
still
Walker.
Ursula Walker in Detroit. She was on TV all the time. She was like the prodigy at the time.
So, okay, Frida, let me get this straight now. You said you won second place, and
Right.
this girl won. Ursula Walker's her name,
Yeah, Ursula
and
Walker.
she won first place.
Yeah, she
How'd
won
that
first.
so how'd that make you feel?
That made me feel so exhilarating because I felt like
Okay.
if I can come in second place to Ursula, I'm doing pretty good because Ursula at the time was like the protege of she was the one that was the prodigy around in Detroit at the time.
Uh-huh.
This little black girl who was singing on TV, and she had a lovely voice, a beautiful voice. So I said, I'm doing all right. So it gave me the courage to do some more. So I went and there was a TV show in Detroit. It was local, and but it was national. It was on channels. It was NBC. So, but it was like the local. It was sort of like Dick Clark's American Bandstand. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So they featured uh, uh, little teenagers dancing, and they also had like whoever a star was who was performing in Detroit at a club. They would have them come and do a guest spot, like a Sammy Davis Jr. or the Four Freshmen or Della Reese, people like that. So also they had a segment of about 15, 20 minutes where they designated that to a talent contest. And
Oh.
it was only 4 acts every week, 4 acts. So I went down to audition. My mother said, "Well, maybe you ought to try out for that show," because then my mother started beginning to see that I was pretty good. And so I auditioned for the talent contest, and they accepted me. When I went down to audition, I danced because I was dancing at the time. I was studying ballet. Yeah, I was
What?
in
Now,
a
how old
ballet.
were you then? How old were you then when you were studying ballet?
13,
All right,
12. I
girl.
was 12 when I started. And by this time, going to audition for the talent contest, I was 13. And
Wow.
so I thought I was bad, honey. I said, I'm
Of
good.
course.
I can, honey, they accepted me for to participate. I went home and I started to thinking. I said, wait a minute. I got a feeling, something telling me, a little voice said, you better sing instead. You have a better chance. So I told my mother to call them up and tell them I want to sing instead. And they said, okay, if she wants to sing, my mother said, she's pretty good. So I sang and I won.
Stop
And
it.
I won. And then, honey, I was really feeling good about I won a trophy. You know what a trophy and a
Yeah, a
record
trophy
player
and a record player.
and a
Lord, what?
record player.
So because these things happen, that must have bolstered your confidence,
Yes, it
right?
did. Yes, it
Yeah.
did. And it made me more popular at school.
Yeah. All
You
right
know,
now, girl.
so 6 months later, they called me back. They said, we want you on again. Honey, I went on the second time and I won again.
And one again.
So I was feeling really good about myself. Now, about that time, that's when Berry Gordy became aware of me. Berry heard about me, being on TV, winning talent contests. Berry was a songwriter at the time. He had been Barry previously was worked at Ford Motor Company, and then he also was a prize fighter, lightweight.
Girl, you
But
are
he
telling
started.
me stuff that I did not know about Barry Gordy. I
Well, you
didn't know
know
these
what? You
things.
better get his book. Get his book,
Woo,
man.
I got to get his book and
He's
read it,
got
honey.
he's got a lot of stuff in there that'll blow your mind. But anyway,
Wow.
Barry had written songs for Jackie Wilson. Jackie
Mm,
Wilson was a huge star back then,
he was
and
great.
and Barry wrote two of his big hits, Reet Petite and To Be Loved. Check it out. Reet
That's funny
Petite.
because I think because he was a writer, it's probably why he ended up with Motown and for all the acts that came out and the way the acts came out because his hands was knee deep in or not hands but he was knee deep into
Yeah,
music because of his writing ability.
right. His writing ability and his dream. He dreamed
Yes.
this was his dream. This is my goal, is to be a success in the music industry. So how
Wow.
he says, how am I going to be a success? I need talent. So
Mm.
one thing about Barry, he knew how to surround himself with the right elements,
Mm-hmm.
the right artists, the right producers, the right
Yes.
songwriters, the right lawyers. the
Yes.
right accountants, the right promotion men, all that stuff came into play. So when
Hmm.
Barry saw me, Barry started coming to my dance classes.
Well,
At the time I had started taking Afro-Cuban
okay.
classes from a guy named Taboo, who was working with this lady named Mrs. Beatrice Summers, who was also one of my mentors, by the way. This lady, Mrs. Summers, and she was and Taboo was actually giving Afro-Cuban lessons uh, at her house in her recreation room. You know, people who live back east, like Detroit, Chicago, we had rec rooms, and some people's rec rooms it was like a whole nother room. You'd have a bar in
Yes.
there, you get parties there, so and so. So anyway, Barry would come over to her place and watch me dance. He'd just stand there and watch me. So then he said, Freda, I want to write some songs, and I want to take you into
Oh my
United
God.
Sound and record. And so I recorded four of his songs, like four demos, kind of
Yes.
so to speak, but they were done as masters. At United
Wow.
Sound was located on West Grand Boulevard in Detroit. It's the same street where Hitsville, the
What?
original Motown recording,
Yes.
is located. The Hitsville was actually a converted house,
Hmm.
but United Sound was an actual recording studio on that same street, just like a block or two blocks away. Isn't
Yes.
that ironic? But anyway, that was it because there was no Hitsville at the
Hmm.
time.
At the
So we
time.
recorded those songs. One was called Father Dear, and one was called Applications for Love, and another was called The Moon Rock, and then another one was called Save Me a Star. And after that, Barry said, "Well, I want to go to New York." So Barry and his friend George Kelly, who was one of his backers, Money for Money.
Yes.
We all, my mother, he took me, my mother, and then Sherry went along as well. And it was in George Kelly's white Cadillac. And we drove from Detroit to New York. And Barry, I think he took a meeting with a guy named Morris Levy. Morris
Morris
was the
Levy.
president of Roulette Records.
I
He
know
was
that name.
he was infamous back then, you know. And so Barry stayed a couple of days. We left the next day and drove back to Detroit, and Barry flew back in a couple of days. Anyway, Barry, I remember Barry coming over to the house and saying, "I want to talk to your mother." And I remember I wasn't in the room. He wanted to talk to Mama alone. So I sat on the stairway that
Hmm.
was between the dining room and the living rom, and
Yes.
I listened. I'm listening,
So you
and
could hear everything they were saying.
I could hear basically what they were saying. And Barry was talking Mama into, he said, "I want to manage Freda." He says, "I want to manage." And he said, so my mother said, she said, "Well, how much percentage do you want?" He said, it was either 20% or 25%. And my mother said, "Well, how much does the agent get?" He said, 10%. She said, "That's 35. Okay,
Uh-huh.
who pays for Frida's when Frida has to fly somewhere, the airfare and the hotels? Who pays for all of that?" Frida.
Mm.
She said, "What if Frida needs gowns for her wardrobe to
Frida.
perform?" Yeah, what is Frida? What about when Frida needs to buy gowns for her wardrobe? Who pays for the gowns and wardrobe? He said, "Frida does." My mother said, "Well, then
So what does she
what
get
does
out of
that
it?
leave Frida?" Just like that. And he didn't have nothing. He didn't have nothing to say. He would not relent. And my mother would not say, "Okay, that's all right." My mother would not relent. So it was a stalemate. So nothing happened.
But
So
you don't
that's
think
what,
he was taking advantage of the situation, do you? I mean, what do
well,
you
that was
think?
Barry. That was
Yeah.
Barry.
Yeah.
It was, that line, "It's his way or the highway."
Yes, that was
That's
applicable to him.
applicable. But can I tell you something, Vivian? In my experience in the business, that goes for Barry, for Duke Ellington, and a lot of them. It's like that, and I think
Yes.
it's still like that to this day.
And it's funny because I don't fare well with those kinds of people who have that kind of attitude. I don't do well with those kinds of people because I really do believe that, especially, I mean, you were not seasoned at that time, you were a baby. But I think when you are dealing with seasoned actors, seasoned performers, whatever medium, there has to be a collaboration. That whole
Yeah.
dictatorship
Or
and do as I say or it's not going to be done.
well, you know what? What's the point of having a contract if
Yeah,
you can't negotiate? That's the whole point. A contract is
exactly.
to negotiate. You know, you're not
Exactly.
supposed to just say, "Here's a contract, sign." No,
Yes.
baby, I'm
No,
reading
you're
it.
going to read. That's what Bobby Schiffman taught me because he was my manager. Read, he said, read everything before you sign it. So
Yeah.
that was very smart on your mother's part.
Even the fine print,
Yes.
even the fine print. So
Okay.
nothing happened then.
You were shedding some facts with me that I didn't even know, and things that I had not heard. Like, for instance, I really did not know that Barry Gordy was a songwriter, and that there were these 4 songs that he had done for you. And by the way, did you like the songs? How were the songs?
The Father Dear was okay. Applications for Love, I wasn't that crazy about. Moon Rock was very popish. You know, they did the moon rock, the moon rock, the moon. You know, one of those kind of songs, kind of like
Yeah.
very popish.
Hmm.
And Applications, Save Me a Star. It was all right. It wasn't. I mean, if the songs were that great, I think he would have had those songs. He did have those songs redone by Claudette Robinson after he
Oh,
formed.
really?
Yeah, Claudette did it, and also Florence Ballard. I hear
Florence.
he did it.
Yeah.
Save Me a Star.
Between the time that I guess you and your mother and Barry sort of parted ways.
We just left it at that in a way.
Okay.
So there nothing happened. So in a way, might say we parted ways. And I went on and did start my continued my life and my career. I got
Because
the
you're
I
still in
auditioned for.
school. I mean, weren't you? You were still in
I
school.
was 14, so I was like
Yeah.
probably in the 10th grade or something like that. But then I got on a radio show. I auditioned for a radio show called Don Large's Make Way for Youth. It was station WJR, and it
Mhm.
was every Saturday, and it was in NBC affiliated. It was in the Fisher Building, and so that's what I did. I was on that show. It was like a chorus, and Don Large would give me solos every now and then. Every other week, he would give me a solo to sing. And guess what? Ursula Walker was in that group too as well.
No, you just couldn't get rid of her, huh?
I couldn't get rid of Ursula. So it was, hey, we were it was me, Ursula Walker, and a girl named Carmen Mathis. We were the only 3 Black girls in the chorus and the whole, it was like a choir, a chorus. We were the
Yes.
only 3 Black girls, and only, I think, two other African American males in the whole chorus. But anyway, I did that for 3 years until I was 16 years old. And then when I was 17, I got to meet and audition for Duke Ellington.
Okay.
And I also got to audition for Pearl Bailey to go on tour with her in her review. She had a review, and I went with Pearl Bailey. That was my first professional job on the road
Okay,
with
so this
Pearl.
is all before the record, your big record. This is all
Yeah,
before that.
all
Amazing,
before.
Frida, because I did not know all of this stuff. I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. There might be a lot of people don't know these things because I'm
No,
thinking, your first big record, Band of Go. I'm thinking, okay, so that's when her career started. But
no.
and then we're going to talk about your jazz, which now kind of makes sense because of the Duke Ellington connection. Wow! And
Right.
then Pearl Bailey. What did you do with Pearl Bailey exactly?
Well, I was a background singer. I was
Girl, shut up.
I was one of her background singers, singing out in my alto parts,
Mm-hmm.
and also mezzo soprano, alto mezzo soprano. And
Yes.
we went on tour. We started out. It was on bus. I called it bus and truck. We were on the our first engagement was a week in Cincinnati at a theater, all theaters, and then we did a week at the Apollo in
Oh.
New York, and then we went to D.C., Washington D.C., where we were at the Howard. Now, while we were at the Howard, Pearl took ill, and the show
Oh.
had to shut down. And then that was it. That was my that
Okay,
was
now are you still? You're not 14 now at this point. Are you a little bit older?
17. I'm
Seven. Okay,
still
you're 17 at this point. Okay.
17. So anyway, that was that, and yeah, I did all that stuff when I was still 17. Oh, and
Okay.
also I got to mention another talent contest. When I was 16, I was on Ted Mack's Amateur Hour.
Ted Mack's Amateur Hour. Woo,
Ted, Ted Mack's Amateur Hour. You know, Gladys Knight did that too.
I didn't know that.
Gladys
Ted
Knight was
Mack's
on that. She
Amateur
won
Hour.
first place. I was on it and I won second.
Okay.
And I was up against this Italian, this white guy. He was Italian and he was a tenor. And he was up for his third win. And usually when a person is up for their third win, they have built up a momentum.
Yeah.
So it was kind of hard for me to beat him. But
And he was
I
a classical singer?
Yeah, like, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he won first. I came in second. Now, 2 weeks after that, I got a write-up in Jet Magazine. I said, how in the world did they even know about me?
People
You know,
watching Ted Mack's Amateur Hour, child, please.
yeah, but back then, hey Vivian, remember back then, Jet, if you were African American, a person of color, they wrote about you. They,
Yeah.
especially if you were on TV, they remember there was a
Well, I
time
was
when
on
they
the
had
cover of Jet. I had the cover of Jet. Yeah.
right. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, well, of course,
So Jet was
and
all about black people and what they were
it was
doing, and it
all
was
about.
great magazine. Great
I
magazine.
know they advertised, let people know what we were doing.
Yes.
So that was my first time being in Jet when I was 16 years old.
Wow.
And then after that, I did several covers. I did several covers and centerfolds and all that stuff.
Well, you were a beauty. I mean, come on. And back during that time, what was I doing? Nothing but classical music, girl. I was like, let me tell you something.
Well,
I
you
was
have
like,
a gorgeous voice.
Thank you. I was like this with R&B. Ooh, no.
I will sing that kind of music.
Now you can't get the funk out of me. But no, okay, so let's get on to the nitty gritty, girl. So how did the deal come about with you and the company that produced Band of Gold?
Oh, okay. Let me tell you that story. I was at the time, you see, I moved to New York when I was 18. And so I had been living in New York for like almost 8 years. So this was in 1968. And I was in my apartment. I had an apartment. I had a roommate too, but I was in my apartment in New York at Central Park West. And there was a lady that lived in the next tower next to mine. And her name is Tamiko Jones.
Tamiko Jones. Baby, you know these women with these names. Oh, Lord.
Tamiko Jones. And so she called me. She said, Freda, guess who's here? He's an old friend of yours, says he knows you. And I said, well, who is that? She said, Brian Holland. I said, Brian?
Like Holland Dozier Holland?
Yeah, Brian Holland of Holland Dozier. So I said, Brian went to school with me, went to high school with me. So Brian got on the phone and said, girl, Freda, why don't you come over here? Are you doing anything? I said, no, I'm just hanging out. He said, come on, I want to see you. So I went over there and we talked and he wanted to know what was I doing. He said, are you with a record label now? I said, well, I was with ABC Paramount. And I said I did a single.
Wait a minute, hold it. Excuse me. We bypassed that.
Yeah.
With ABC
Paramount that was in 63. 62,
okay.
63.
And you were how old then? 17?
I was, by then, wait a minute. By then I was like about 26 or 27.
Okay, so wait a minute. This is after Band of Gold or before Band of Gold? I'm getting
before lost. Band of Gold.
This was before Band of Gold. Company. Okay, and how was it with them?
Okay, I did sign. I did sign with them, and I went back to Detroit and I signed with them, and I recorded in Detroit, for them on the Invictus label.
Okay,
and the first single came out in 1969, and that was The Unhooked Generation.
Okay.
That didn't quite score the way they wanted it to, but it was it was a slamming track. It was a good song. And then there was, and then in 1970, and it must have been, I think, February, they released Band of Gold. And Band
Okay.
of Gold started to move up the charts
Baby,
and
that was the
moved up the
song, baby.
charts.
That was the
And then,
song.
yeah, and then it became a hit. By the summertime of 1970, it was all over. I mean, it was like,
It was a huge hit.
yeah, it was a big hit. And I got a gold record for it.
Girl, everybody was dancing to that song. I mean, everybody. So go ahead.
So I was so thrilled, to hear my song, to hear my voice on the radio. It was like a real thrill. I said, I have finally arrived. So finally, it was like, I got a gold record for that one.
You
And then
sure
a
did.
year later, they were looking for a follow-up. So the second song they released was called Deeper and Deeper. And Deeper and Deeper was a good song, but it didn't go to like number one, but it did well.
Okay.
And then they were looking for that smash.
Yes.
So about a year later, they brought a song to me and they said, we want to record you on this song. What do you think? So they played it. It was Bring the
Bring
Boys
the
Home.
boys home. Oh,
And, we were at war with Vietnam at the time.
yes.
And so they played it and it brought tears to my eyes. I
Yeah,
said,
it was
I
wonderful.
love it. I said, I want to record. I said, I love it. So we recorded that one and that became an instant hit.
Yes.
Instant hit. And it was another second gold record for me.
That is so
And
fabulous.
by the way, Band of Gold at the time was stayed for number one in the UK for 6 weeks.
Unbelievable.
And that was big.
Was Bring the Boys Home bigger than Band of Gold?
No, you know what? It was a hit in the US, but it wasn't a big hit in the UK because it wasn't, they couldn't relate to it, Bring the Boys Home.
Not.
But it was an excellent, it was an excellent
fabulous.
song.
Fabulous production, and you did a great job. I mean,
yeah. So round about that time, after Bring the Boys Home start really making noise, I noticed that I made a request to Eddie Holland. I said, Eddie, you guys haven't issued a check to me or given me any kind of advance. And I mean, Band of Gold was a big hit, and now Bring the Boys Home is doing very well. I said, don't you think I should be getting something? I should be getting some royalties. He said, well, you don't have any royalties yet. We spent a lot of money on promotion and all that. And then the recording sessions. He said, you don't have any royalties. I said, well, Eddie, you guys haven't even given me an advance just for coming to being here in Detroit and recording because, I live in New York and I stay at my parents' house when I come home. So you guys have saved money on not putting me up in a hotel or paying for my food, which would be a per diem payment. I said, you haven't paid me anything yet. I said, I need to get some royalties. I'm not kidding. He said, well, there's no royalties. I said, if there's no royalties, then you better take out a loan and give it to me and pretend like it's royalties. That's exactly what I said.
Good for you.
So that didn't happen. So I became really miserable. I was unhappy. And I decided.
That was unfair.
Yeah, I decided that, well, you know what? I'm not going to take this sitting down. So when I was here in LA and it was a gig or maybe I came out here to do Soul Train or something. But I decided I wanted to get a lawyer. I said, I got to get a lawyer, to sue him. And I got a lawyer and I sued him. And then that's when the war really started. That's when the war really started.
Oh, yeah.
And they sued me. They countersued me back. And, it went on like that for almost 2 years. And finally we settled. We finally settled. And as they say, nobody wins when you think about it.
Yeah, but I think it went on because basically you were shut down. Yeah. You couldn't do anything. And I think this is the unfortunate thing about our business. nowadays I think the artists have become much more savvy, and they ask for these huge advances if they just don't outright produce and do everything themselves. And when that started to happen, when these big advances were given out, I said it's about time, because if that had never happened, probably no one would have seen
Right.
their royalties at all, because it was always an excuse as to why they could not pay you any money. Always an
I
excuse.
know. I
But you
know.
know, Frida, I know emotionally that must have taken you through something. But baby, all of the industry, especially performers and just people that loved your music, honey, we were all on your side.
Well,
Child,
you
everybody
know what?
invictus.
You know what? You don't want, you know, that was so stressful. I don't think I
Mm,
could stand anything like that today.
yeah.
That was
Well,
so
you wouldn't
stressful.
stand. Listen, sweetheart, with your business savvy now, you would never go through that shit again.
No,
Never.
no,
In
not
fact, I
really.
don't believe that you would even open your mouth unless there was some moolah in the hand.
Uh-huh.
Why would you
Well,
do that?
you know what? And then think today, I'll tell you, the record industry, there literally is no record
No, there
industry.
isn't. Mm-mm.
It's a whole new animal.
The
And it's
streaming.
not, I feel sorry for, I really feel sorry
Yeah.
for the millennials or young people who are coming up now. It's like now, it's almost like you got to do everything yourself. And
Yes.
then if some company that's supposed to be a record company that, you know, the big that wants to sign you, then of course do your due diligence,
Yes, you have
um,
to.
do the due diligence, read the contracts very carefully, get an entertainment lawyer to just say what's fair. That's all, you
Yes.
know, you don't want to out over negotiate yourself either out of a deal.
No.
But you want something that's just fair. You got to look at situations from both sides. Like
Yes.
the company has to protect themselves and say, well, what's in it for us? As well as the artist, you know, who's trying to
Yes.
get something going and establish a career and,
Mm-hmm.
therefore, like, eventually a name for themselves.
Yes.
And, a lot of it has to do, talent is important. Talent is very important, but a lot of it has to do with luck too.
With what? Luck?
Luck,
Oh,
luck,
absolutely.
being in the right place at the right time, being, uh, with the right people.
Yes.
I think you need to have high ideals, high moral, because
And I think
sometimes you
And I
have
think
to
you have to
have
work
all.
on your professionalism. You truly have to work on your professionalism, be on time. Because you know, it's
Oh
easy.
yeah,
I was saying this, Rita, to somebody else, I don't remember. And I was telling them everybody wants gimme, 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 wants everything handed to them on a silver platter. But are you ready when that time comes? So you
right,
spend the time to work on your craft so that you are ready when that door opens, if it's going to
right.
open, and hopefully it does open. But there's no
Hmm.
point in coveting what somebody else has, Susie over here and Jim over here, coveting. Work on your own shit so that it is together when the time comes. Know what it
Right,
is. You have to be on time.
right,
You have to be
right.
respectful of your producers and everything, but also too, you want to learn about the business. Just don't only know the music part of it. Learn the business of show business. What is it all
Yes.
about?
Yeah, especially what I see now and what I admire the most are these young artists come along and they're writing their own songs.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes,
They're
girl.
producing and writing their own song. That's where the money is.
Yes, that's it.
Because when you write your own songs, therefore, like when you belong to ASCAP or BMI, um, you're gonna get anytime your song is played, like radio, or if it's streamed. But nowadays, sadly, I have to say, uh, uh, media outlets like Spotify you don't hardly make any money on that.
No, it's
You
because
hardly
a
make
lot of my stuff is on there, and you don't. It's pennies. It's like
It's pennies on the dollar.
pennies, pennies.
And that is, what,
You know what?
record company moguls like the Gordys and the Clive
Mm-hmm.
Davises, Mo Austins and stuff like that, they wouldn't be able to be such tycoons today. They wouldn't, because
No.
it won't be that kind of. They wouldn't be able to generate that kind of income.
Well, I find that I sell the most after shows.
live.
That's the best way to do it. You know, I mean, if
Selling
you're
your
sitting,
CDs
still
or your
selling your
DVDs.
CDs, baby, and sell or your
Hmm.
DVDs. Um, that's why I say if you can get them mass produced and the property belongs to you, baby, take when you finish singing and whatever the hell you doing on stage, you go and be ready. Because people are ready to buy. They'll still buy some CDs. Just be
They
ready and
will.
have them to buy. Because that's where you're going to make. I made more money from selling CDs after a show than, well, I ain't never got a royalty, but I never had the career that you had
Hmm.
because they, people always say, well, you never talk about your record career, baby, please. It's, it's not like it didn't exist because it did exist. They didn't really know what to do with my voice. I mean, with your voice and Band of Gold and Bring the Boys Home, there was a marriage there. Yeah, there have been some things that I liked, but I'm gonna tell you the truth. I liked more of the things that I recorded in Europe than I did here. And
Hmm.
I'll tell you there were two Facebook messages. Two different people didn't know each other,
Hmm.
and both said, "I have all of your stuff, your recordings, but my two favorite are the last two." They didn't, of course, it was worded differently each of these messages.
Yeah.
And I said the last two, and I'm thinking, with the company and blah 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 blah. I said the last two, and then they said the Amazing Grace album, the Vivian Reesing, that old time gospel, and your standards and more. I said those were two that I produced
Ah. Hmm.
because on some of the stuff that I did here in this country, people were, especially if they were the arranger, in the mix, the arrangement would be up over my voice, and it wasn't. A lot of
Yeah.
the times, the mixes were not good. And
Hmm.
in Europe, though, they took care to do really good productions, good mixes, and I like the songs. But my stuff, it was all about. See, to me, even in a club,
Hmm.
an audience is not going to feel anything if the voice is way up here and the music is way down here. There's not a marriage, so all you hear is voice, but you don't hear that music that's making it, that track. You don't hear that. So I always make sure that there is a marriage, that the
Right.
the
Right.
music is slightly under the voice,
Right.
so that you
Right.
can feel
You're
both.
right. You're absolutely right. The right kind of, it's got to be the right mix.
Yes, the right
Yeah.
mix. Did you ever
Hmm.
come in touch with any of those guys from Invictus, like later on in later years?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, a lot. I
Did they
mean,
ever
different.
apologize to you?
No, nobody, no apologies offered. But I
That's
did. I have to
unbelievable.
tell you this. Eddie Holland did make a confession to me personally, and he said that he wished he could have been more mature in some of the uh, dealings with me
Hmm.
verbally when we have, and some of the things that he did out of spite, and also stuff that he did because he felt that he just wanted to be more in control,
Hmm.
and where
Yes.
I'll give you an incident. There was once he got me under his wing and we had the hit Band of Gold. Um, he wanted to take me away from the agent I had been with for several years, who
Hmm.
had booked me multiple times, and they had done so much for me. They literally had taken me just under their wing and
Hmm.
kept me afloat during those years I was living in New York. And that agency was APA.
Oh.
And the man who took me under his wing was David Baumgarten,
Hmm.
who was the president and the owner and the CEO of APA at the time. And he's deceased now, long gone. But he was like my God, my angel, my godfather.
And it was
And
not
when I,
like they didn't do anything for you. They were very instrumental in the early part of your career. They got you gigs. They did all kinds of things.
yeah,
So,
they gave me jobs in good places, supper clubs, high class
yes.
places, you know. So anyway, when I got the hit and finally like, okay, now they can book me in even higher class places, and
Hmm.
take. And as a matter of fact, I was with them when I did my Broadway show. I was an understudy, for Leslie Uggams and Hallelujah
And
Baby.
Hallelujah
And
Baby. I just did
yeah,
that recently over at the York Theater.
you had the song. You had,
I don't know where she got it.
she sure did. I don't know where she got
Where
it.
she got it, but she sure
She sure didn't
didn't
get
get
it
it,
from
and it
me.
was the way I played it. Girl, the reviews were fabulous. But Stephanie Umo, I mean, she played the hell out of Georgina. She's a stellar singer. Her technique is just above reproach. I think she's gonna have a great career. But yeah, we
Mm.
had a cast, but baby, I played that mother.
Uh,
That was so much fun. It was a
I
lot of
wish I
fun.
could. I wish I could have seen it
It was a lot of
with
fun.
you playing that role.
Let's talk about your theater. Okay, so you understudied, and did you ever get a chance to go on?
6 times.
Woo! Yes,
I was the
honey.
only one. Emily Yancey was the first
I know
understudy.
Emily. Hmm.
Yeah, Emily. I know. Yeah, Emily. And Emily had to leave the show when she got booked to do Hello Dolly with Pearl
Okay.
Bailey
Girl Bailey,
and
yeah.
Cab Calloway. And so they put the call out for auditioning. And my roommate, that was when I was living in New York on Central Park West. My roommate
Hmm.
said, my roommate was a dancer in the show. And she
Ah,
said, Freda, you ought to audition. And at first I didn't think I was good enough to audition. And she said, girl, you can sing just as good. And I bet you can act too. And I know you can dance. So anyway, I auditioned and they were very impressed with my vocal. But for some reason, they weren't impressed with my reading. So I didn't get
okay.
it that time. A girl by the name of Norma Donaldson got it. They hired Norma, and about 3 weeks later, they had her go on. And guess what happened?
What
She went
happened?
on, and because Leslie was supposed to be having some minor surgery,
Okay.
and
Right.
so I guess they were testing it. She went on, and by the intermission, they called Leslie to come back to finish the show.
Okay.
That happened.
Wow.
So when that happened, they let her go because they weren't happy. So anyway, they called me in to audition again. This time we got my roommate, her name was Sandra McPherson.
Shonda
Did you ever know
McPherson,
Sandra?
of course. Hmm.
Okay. Sandy. Everybody called her Sandy. And Sandy said, I'm going to ask Billy D. Williams to come up to the apartment and read with you before you audition.
Oh wow, Billy D.
So
Williams.
Billy, yeah,
Woo!
Billy. Well, back then, Billy, back then he was actually the stand-in for Robert Hooks. And he would do the
Really?
shows. He would do the matinee. Remember, Robert Hooks was on that TV detective show
Yes, the detective
NYPD.
show. Hmm.
NYPD. He
Hmm.
was that was the beginning of it. The beginning, and when the show was still in black and white
Hmm.
on TV. So he was doing that. He was doing double duty. He was doing Broadway at night, and then in the daytime he was working on NYPD. So Billy was doing the show he would do the matinees. So Billy came and read with me, gave me a few tips, coaching,
Yes.
coaching. And I went into audition the next day and I was hired.
Oh, praise God.
So I was I was hired. So they not only hired me as Leslie's understudy, but they also hired me as a swing dancer.
Yeah, swing is. We were talking about that because I was on with a director, just not a director, stage manager, just to talk about what it is like to be a swing and understudy and standby and all of this and the
Yeah,
differences. So yeah,
yeah.
so swing, yeah,
So
you gotta cover so many roles. Woo.
I know, but I only did that once, and it was for Hope Clark. And it
Mm-hmm.
was for one little scene. I think I had to do something. It was the entrance into the ballroom where he had to do some
Mm-hmm.
grand jetés and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I did that. But exactly 3 weeks after I was hired, they said, you're going to go on. But they gave me a week's notice so that I could so they start having rehearsals during the day to, get me situated, the blocking, costume fitting and all that stuff. Honey, I went on the first night. I got a standing ovation.
Shut up now. Come on
I
now.
got a standing ovation. I was shocked. Everybody was so happy because I pulled it off, you know.
So let's talk about today. Your new CD, girl. Do you have it there? I know you got it there, don't you?
Yeah, I got. Oh yeah, here it
I
is.
know you got it there.
Here it
Oh,
is.
it's so beautiful. What's some of the songs on there, Freda?
Well, there are 4 duets I did. It's an EP, not an LP. So I've
Oh,
got
okay.
six.
6 songs.
So 6. So I have a duet with Johnny Mathis.
Oh my God.
And I have a duet with Kenny Lattimore.
Oh Lord.
And Dee Dee Bridgewater.
You trying to send me to the flow?
and Kurt Elling. So it's like those 4 people, and then of course I do a song by myself, and that's a song called a Cole Porter tune called "It's All Right with Me." And
which one?
That's it.
It's well, sing it, sing it. I think I sung that before. It's all right.
It's the wrong time,
yes,
and the wrong place. Though your face is charming, it's the wrong face.
Yes,
it's not his face.
Dang it.
But such a charming face that it's all right with me.
Oh, baby, you sound so great. So now, where can they get this CD? If they want the whole CD, all 6 songs.
The live CD.
The live CD.
Go to my website, which is fredapayne.com, and you can order it directly from my website.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you own it all, or is it in ownership with somebody else, the guy that produced it? Or
well, the guy who executive produced it,
yes,
probably. But then again, we both probably. I'm also the co-producer as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you allowed to sell the CD after your show? Can you make them up and sell them? See, that's great.
Definitely.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. So, Freda, anything on the horizon? I know I saw your concert several months ago. I think, was it Washington or Baltimore?
It was, Baltimore, Maryland.
It was Baltimore. I saw it was in a jazz club. It was wonderful.
Keystone Corner.
Yes.
Keystone Corner. I think they're back open now.
Oh, that's good. Do you think you might go back there and do something?
I would like to. If they invite me back, I would love to go back there.
Any regrets about choices that you made in your career?
In my career, yes.
Yeah, I do too. I have a few.
I have some regrets. I have a few. You know that song, My Way?
My Way.
That applies to me.
Can you tell us one?
Oh God. It's kind of hard to do. A regret. I regret, and I kind of go back. I believe I have my religious beliefs and my spiritual beliefs. Sometimes I regret that I didn't go with Barry. Not that time, but when I was a teenager, but there was a separate opportunity that presented itself later on when I was in my 20s. We were both in Europe together. We were in Manchester, England. This would have been, the year was 1965. And I was in Europe, and I was performing in Manchester, England at the time. And the Motortown, they called it the Motortown Review, was appearing in Manchester, England. And I was performing at a private club doing my own solo act. And I called up the theater, and Barry came to see my show. And then he invited me to come to the theater to see the review. And the review was consisted of the original Supremes. And Martha Reeves. And the
Vandellas.
Yeah. Junior Walker, little Stevie Wonder when he was little. Yes. And I don't know who else, but I don't know if the Temptations were on the show. I don't think they were out then quite yet. Or maybe they were on the show. Anyway, but the Miracles, Smokey Robinson, the Miracles. And I went back after the show. Barry took me backstage and to say hello to everybody. And then when I saw Smokey said, "Hey, Barry, Freda ought to be with us." Why isn't she with us, with Motown? And so Barry said, well, Freda, when are you coming back when you coming to Detroit next? I said, I'll be coming back home in about 2 to 3 weeks from now when I finish my gig here. So he said, well, when you get back to Detroit, look me up, give me a call. We'll talk. I got back to Detroit and I called him, and he had his lawyer, Ralph Seltzer, mail a contract to my house. And
wait a minute, hold it, time out. He assumed that you were going to sign with him?
Yeah, he was thinking it was going to happen. It was going to happen.
Wow.
So I got the contract. I read it. My mother read it. And then our lawyer, who was our neighbor, his name was Alan Early Jr. He read it. And oh, by the way, all of this stuff is all the stuff I've talked about is going to be is in my book, you know.
Is it out yet? Is your book out or it's not out?
No, it's going to be out in the fall.
Did you hear that, folks? She's got a book coming out.
It's going to be out in the fall, and I'll be going in depth and telling more detail. Okay. Well, anyway, we wound up looking at the contract and thinking, oh, well, maybe we need to change this or we ask for this instead of that, you know, whatever. Honey, we sent the contract back and get a call from Barry. And he says, my mother answered the phone and he says, I want to speak to Freda. So she put me on the phone. Barry said, look, I don't let anybody change anything in my contracts. I said, well, you did with the Four Tops. He said, yeah, but that's different. I had a relationship with Levi. He said, nobody will be changing anything in my contracts. Oh, we can't do business, but we can stay friends.
Oh, shit.
And that was that.
So, okay, so the regret is that you think you should have signed the contract.
The regret was I just let it go. I didn't say, oh, Barry, please, I want to be, I'll take it back. Don't forget about it. You don't have to change. I won't change anything. Just forget about it. I didn't do that. I just said, okay.
Okay, but Freda, what do you think he would have done? Because this was before Band of Gold, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what do you think he would have done for you? Oh, right. So what do you think
when I think about it the way I am, now here's the deal. You know what I figured out later on, and I look back on it? Diana was the one out of the group, was still in the group. Mm-hmm. She, I think at that point, was going with Barry. Mm. And he saw that she was the one that was selling the records. Mm-hmm. And he saw that she was the one that was, bringing all this attention to the company because the Supremes were having hit after hit. They were on a roll. He saw that there probably was going to be a conflict. You see what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And on top of that, Barry was very promiscuous. He had this is in my book. He had also other ideas about me.
Well, that's what I was going to say a while ago. I said, Vivian, don't you go there. But that's what I thought. When you started talking about Barry, that entered my mind. Yes.
Barry was well known to be a womanizer, and got my mother told me back when I was a teenager. She said, "Well, he got babies on the other side of town. He got babies all." That might have been her reason
he got babies, mamas all over the place.
Yeah, that's why that might have been the reason she was thinking. But Barry had his eyes fixated on me for other reasons.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling he foresaw there was going to be trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You dig?
I think he made the right decision.
And you know what? He was right, because there would have been trouble.
Yep.
Because there would have been a conflict there.
Yeah, and I think
he might have... A conflict of interest.
I think he might have squashed you just to get her out there. You don't know.
And I was I wasn't in a group. I'm a soloist.
You're a solo artist.
Yeah, and I would have been a threat. Threat. So I think he kind of eradicated. He got rid of. He says, "Well, this might be trouble anyway, so I don't need it." I think,
girl, things happen for a reason, and I think
things happen for a reason.
Look
and
what happened.
You know what I say? God didn't. If it was meant to be, it would have been.
You are such a beautiful, beautiful person, a beautiful woman, and you've been a role model for so many people. And I love how you took over your career and the different parts of the of show business that you went in and excelled in all of them. So, is there anything you want to say to any young people watching this who are thinking about coming into show business or who are already there and what they need to know to to stay there?
Well, a lot of it has, like I said, has to do with your calling, with luck. And also it has to do just all the stuff we talked about.
Hmm.
If they've been watching this presentation, this show, just learn from some of the things that we've
Hmm.
talked about to avoid, what to avoid. Um, you know, Read your contracts, kind of know your rights.
Yes.
If you're a songwriter, know that you should be registered, like copyrights and all that kind of stuff, or you have your own publishing. Get
Yes.
your own little publishing company and do that. You don't have to sell your soul or
Yes.
give your stuff away, and little things like that. Um, just do your homework. They now see back then they didn't have books on show business and publishing and all that
Hmm.
kind. That
They
there are
got a
books out now.
plethora of books now.
Yeah, there are
Yes,
books
they
out
do.
now, so you can educate yourself
Yes.
and uh,
The
and
thing is,
also perform. Get up nowadays. People, it's all about social media. How to get
yes,
out there. People are putting stuff on YouTube. I see. We
yes.
know about that. We see that happening all the time. It's
Hmm.
prevalent. TikTok, FaceTime, YouTube. That stuff gets you out there. And
Yes,
the right person who is looking to, you know, build a career with a potential star is out there. Look,
yes,
what you are seeking is seeking you.
yes.
Remember that.
And I think when all this is over and we can go out again, you want to get the magazines, or not magazines, but the papers like Variety, Backstage, and you want to go, especially if you're doing theater, you want to go and take these auditions. A lot of them will not be equity because equity is a little difficult to get in, but that's not saying you won't get in because you have to have so many weeks of work. But you want to get experience. You want experience under your belt. So the more you get out there
Right.
and you do it, and then put stuff online, quality stuff. Watch what you put online because
Yes.
producers go online and see. They check out your page, and if you
Yeah.
have anything that's unsavory and not good, that
Or
won't fare well for
risque.
you.
That's like out of
Risque and all of
line.
that, it's
Hmm.
not good. So you would take care. Me, I only do stuff pertaining to my career. I only do that. I don't talk about politics. I don't do any of that stuff because politics also, unless you're a gigantic star, it can cause you to lose fans because everybody's got
Yeah.
the party that they're affiliated with. And so you have to be very, very careful what you put on these social platforms. But
Stay neutral.
stay neutral. That's right.
Hmm.
Stay neutral. So, Frida, thank you so much for doing this. You were a delight, and you just told me so many things that I was so totally unaware of. I mean,
Oh.
just amazing. So, yeah, thank you so much, honey.
Oh, thank you, Vivian, for this opportunity. And
Absolutely.
I'm a fan of yours too.
Thank
I'm
you.
a fan of
Thank
yours.
you.
I remember Sherry telling me about you years ago when I think you guys were on the same beauty contest back when you were,
Beauty
I think you were,
contest.
Sherry told me about you like years ago.
A
It was
beauty
I mean, she says,
contest?
"Oh, I
I
was
never
on the
did
same
beauty
beauty contest
contest.
with Vivian." And you
Oh.
said you sang and you were singing like an operatic type
Oh, it
song,
might have been it might, I don't know if it was beauty. It just might have been one of those straight talent contests
like
because like you said,
The Meraki Temple, the Meraki.
oh, the Mason, there was a Mason
Yeah,
tempo.
the Masons. There's something.
Yeah, that wasn't beauty though. That was just straight up talent contest. And I think I represented Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
And I
something like.
came in, I think I came in third or fourth, and this woman, oh, I can't think of her name,
Mhm.
Esther somebody, she won, but her voice was just glorious. And like you, I was very happy, that I even placed. So, but I do
Wait
remember,
a minute.
honey. Hmm.
Do you mind if I call Sherry right now and ask her?
No, go ahead.
Hi, Sherry.
Hi, girl.
Hi, girl.
Hi.
Listen, I'm on a Zoom with Vivian Reed, the Sherry.
Hey, Sherry.
Hi, Vivian.
And I was reoccurring. I was bringing up the fact that you did a show. It was like a talent contest or beauty contest, and you were on the same. You were there with her. Remember, you told me about that years ago.
Yeah, I sent you the picture from the newspapers way back then.
That was way
What
back
was
then.
it?
Yeah. There
What
wasn't
was
a beauty contest. It was a talent contest.
Because I was Miss Meraki Temple, I think. It was for the Shriners or something like
The
that.
Yes, the Shriners.
It was the Shriners. Yeah.
Oh, wow. You were part of that? I remember that.
Yeah, she said it was the Shriners. Now, was it
Shriners.
A beauty contest?
It wasn't beauty. It was talent. No.
She said beauty talent.
Okay.
Beauty and talent. Like
well,
Miss
okay, well, then I
America.
guess we both qualify.
Okay, girl.
Anyway, sweetheart.
Okay. All right, bye-bye. I thought I'd be cute.
Okay.
From the newspaper.
Yeah, she said she sent you a picture from the newspaper.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye, sweetie.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, it definitely was the Shriners. Now, that's what it was, because I also did one for the Masons, but it was the Shriners. That I remembered, yes. I never called it a beauty contest. I just called it a talent contest.
Well, Sherry's a pretty good memory.
Yeah, she does. Better than mine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching this great interview with Freda Payne. So, take care. And don't forget to keep checking back for new videos. Bye. Say bye, Freda.
Bye.